Hello, hello. Welcome back to my channel. Thanks for everybody that has stopped by and left likes and comments. Today, I would like to show you in the ongoing, as we talk about ways to craft through difficult times, to use up what we have to create something that is different or interesting. I'd like to show you my take on making faux leather. This is one of my journal covers that I've done using that faux leather technique. It's a little bit hard to see on the cover because it's, well, covered with something else. And the back isn't the best that I've done with faux leather. I do have other ones, but I've given away most of what I've done. This is a piece that I was testing out. I put too much interference gold in it, so it winds up not looking like leather. It's got a really interesting look to it, but it's not quite right. These are made out of parchment paper, not normally I make them out of wrapping paper or Amazon packaging paper or just basically paper, brown craft paper. But this one I tried out of parchment paper and it does sort of work, but it's a little softer than you would normally get from a faux leather. And then I've been playing around with ways, alternate ways to get some of the effect that I get without the supplies that I use. So what I'll do is I'll start with showing you what I use, and then I'll show you what I'm playing around with so that we can see whether or not it might be something that might work. So I'm just using, this is one of the papers that I used. This is something that I used when I was moving. This is how wide it is. It's about 12, 13 inches high, and then it was a super long roll. It was kind of useless as paper for packing items in for moving, but now I have millions of meters of it. At least it feels like. This is kind of a craft wrapping paper, so it's really heavyweight. You can buy this at Dollarama. It's got a grid line on the inside of it. I use this to great effect because it's pretty heavyweight, and you just make sure that the grid goes on the inside of anything you do. This is pre-done. This is Amazon wrapping paper, so it's already been put through just a water bath at one point in time. So what I was playing with, this one's still wet. This is that one. You would never know it. And this has been coffee dyed. So what I've been playing with, it's still damp, so it's pretty fragile. What I've been playing with is trying to coffee dye the paper in order to get some of these little marks in it, like these brown marks, which I normally get with inks like this. And then I'll show you the next step after the ink goes on. But ink would be the next step after this. And I don't put it on wet paper like this one. This is damp. I wait until my paper is dry. So if I was going to do this, what I would do, excuse me while I reach, is I would get, sorry if this glares, this is going to glare terribly. is I would just get a tray of leftover coffee, use what you drink in the morning, that little bit that you leave at the end, you know, just take that. And then a piece of wrapping paper, Amazon packaging paper. Amazon packaging paper is super fragile, so be very careful if you're using it. Crumple it up as best as you can. Stick it in your coffee. Let the coffee absorb. And then what you will do, I won't do it because it'll turn my hands really, really brown. But what you'll do is you'll just squish it into the coffee and then squish the ball as tight as you can get it and let it dry. And then open it up and do it over and over and over again. Just a minute here. I got coffee everywhere, so I might as well like show you what I mean. So like, this is quite fragile, but you can see where all the little folds are, how the coffee has gone in and made that darker. So just like, now that it's really wet, squeeze it up like this into a tight little ball and drop it back in your coffee, or take it out and put it on like a different, like a surface to dry. And I'll move this over. I have a glass mat beside me, so I'm going to put that on my glass mat. So once you've done that, let it air dry. Don't dry it with a heat gun. I suppose it would work if you did it with a heat gun. I tend not to do that. And now my hands are really brown. I'm sorry. It isn't anything except for coffee, I promise. So now what you will wind up with is a piece of paper that is quite wrinkled, like this, and a bit brown. This was my first attempt, and it doesn't have very much of the coffee in it, only just a small amount. And I think it's because I scrunched it up and then pulled it apart and let it dry that way, rather than scrunching it up and letting it dry in a little ball. This one looks a bit better. You can see more brown in it, and that's because I let it dry mostly all scrunched up. So more of the coffee has gone into the wrinkles. And if you're doing faux leather, that is 100% what you need, is you need your staining, what makes it look like leather, to be on all these little wrinkles. So from here, to get that brown staining on your wrinkles, you're going to use brown ink. You can use, that's a hint of what's coming. You can use either Distress ink or Distress oxide. Be aware if you use an oxide ink, when you get it wet, which we will, because that's a hint, it will go gray, which is kind of not what you want. So I'm not going to use my Distress inks. These are archival inks. I've got Stazon and Spiced Chai. I have VersaFine Clair and Acorn. And I have Spectrum Noir and Rustic Brown. This is quite a dark brown. This is going to be kind of similar, I think, but I don't know for sure. But I think this might be similar to the oxide ink or the Distress oxide and Scorched Timber, but I don't know for sure. So what you will do, I'll start with, I don't think it matters what I start with. So you just go like this, and you'll notice how instantly you've got extra darkness on top of your paper. That's key to what you're doing. You can cover as much of this as you want or as little of this as you want. Sorry, I just bumped my that's a light. That's what that thing is. So that one's quite dark. These are all going to give you a little bit different effect. And don't worry, the ink, like you can see, the ink doesn't go from on the paper to on your pad. So just like put it on top. This red is going to give it quite a bit of what makes it look like this acorn is a reddish brown. This will give it a luscious, really, really, really luscious, leathery look. And then I'm going to put this spiced chai, which is kind of a brownish. And you can go and try to get that like darker under, like in the bottom parts. But this part doesn't matter that much because the next part is what's going to make it look really quite a bit like leather. And I just want to say I really like the smell of the StazOn ink. It's kind of got a, like, almost, I don't know, flowery, lemony. You can cover your working surface if you don't want to get ink on it. I'm just trying to be really careful that I don't, like, go too far out. Now just hang on a second because I need to get some parchment paper and a container to put some paint in. The other thing I've done is I brought out my glass mat because my glass mat is waterproof. And my glass mat is nothing fancy. It came from Dollar Tree. Dollarama. Dollar Tree does not sell glass mats. So what I am going to use is I'm going to use transparent red oxide and violet oxide. Violet oxide is, you can tell from this, it's not transparent. You can tell from this it is transparent. And then I think a bit of water as well, because I want this, what goes on top of here, to be translucent. I will, oh, I forgot. Oh, good. No, I'm good. I'm good. One of these paints, the lid is broken on it, but apparently it's not this one. So you want enough paint in here to cover your entire piece of paper, so don't skimp on the paint. Now I'm using golden, which can be very pricey, and I know I'm saying that I'm trying to give you options for what to do in difficult times. So using a golden paint is not what to do in a difficult time. So I went to Dollarama yesterday and for $1.25 bought 4 fluid ounces of burnt umber, which is an excellent brown color. You can see here it's got a nice rich brown to it, which will give you a really nice leather look. So burnt umber is a really good alternative to iron oxide, but is very brown. And cows are kind of a reddy brown. I mean, they are brown, but they have a bit of red in them. So I also got this deep red, which is kind of almost Christmassy. So what I would do if I was using these two is I would put primarily burnt umber with about 3 or 4 drops of the deep red and play with it until it had the consistency kind of color you wanted, and then play with how much water you put in it so that it comes out as a bit kind of translucent, because you don't want it to be, you don't want it to cover up all of this ink work that you put on there. You want it to have, oh, that's not gonna come off. Just hang on, let's see if I can get that. Okay, that violet oxide is stuck. Okay, I'm gonna try red oxide and see if I can get the lid off that. Just hang on. Yay. When in doubt, use the bottom of your sweater and hope it doesn't bleed. You'll see that this has a bit more red color to it, so I might need some of this burnt umber in there. Kind of to tone down that red color. So because we got burnt umber from the dollar store, yeah, let's use it. This is quite liquid, so that's nice. And then water. You can also use matte medium at this point in time, gesso at this point in time, or wait until later to add gesso. The coffee is going to make your paper kind of stiff. Anybody that's done any coffee dyeing knows that it's it changes the feel of your paper, so it doesn't feel as much like paper. And one of the things about the faux leather is that often it feels like suede by the time you're done. So I'll be interested to see how it turns out using coffee as my first step, whether or not it winds up feeling nice and, well, nice. So from here, one of the reasons you need lots is you're going to try to cover this whole thing of paper. And you can see it looks like it's covering the entire thing and turning it red. So you may need to play, like at this point in time, you're going to kind of go, oh, that's way red, like way red. And you're going to come in and add more brown, because that's just, I think that makes it a Jersey cow. Might try this violet oxide. Let's see if I can get that open. Yes. Add a bit of that violet oxide. Feel free to play with paint colors if you've got paint. If you're like I am, you've acquired all kinds of things across all kinds of different like mediums, thinking, oh, at one point in time I'm going to be a, like, I don't know, acrylic painter, artist type thing, and then it doesn't work out, and now you have like paints and acrylic mediums, and this is a good way to use them. I'm gonna add a bit more water as well. You can see how that soaks in as it dries. One of the things that you want to do in this step is get your paper flat. That's still pretty red. And another thing that you can do is you can paint here, scrunch it into a ball, and ink again after this. So this does not have to be your final step. if you look at this and you go, oh my gosh, that's horrid, do another step. Like, do more of that inking, because that inking is beautiful, right? Like that dark brown. And most likely I will come back and put more of that brown in. But you definitely need your paper flat by the time you're done. Most of the videos I've seen have not put paint on in this step. They end at the inking step. And to me, it looks a little still like paper. It doesn't look quite like cow skin yet. Also, this color is going to dry quite a bit different than what it looks right here. It looks very red, but you can see as it's drying here, look at how much browner it already looks. One of the reasons for putting the parchment paper down is then you can get like all the way to the edges of your of this paper, your packaging paper. That's what it's called. You can also, oh no, you can't do it that way. I was going to say you can paint and then put the ink on, but if you do it that way, you actually have to you have to ball it back up again so that you have wrinkles, because painting it will take all your wrinkles out. And you should be able to see the ink through the paint. Oh. My lights changed there. I don't know what I did. My apologies. Went brighter for a second. Made me think that my lights weren't on to begin with. Also, wet paper has a great, huge desire to tear. So be really careful at all stages, or you will wind up with holes in your paper like this. So and Amazon packaging paper is super fragile. So when you pull it apart, be super careful with it. You cannot pull it apart when it's still fully wet, because it will like rip. It won't pull apart at all. Now you can see here that your paper is flattening out, and that's what you want. You want at this stage that it still looks like it has wrinkles. That's the point of the inking. But it's going to be flat. And I know it doesn't look like you're going to have any of that ink show through. Huh. So my parchment paper is like touching my light and making it change colors. If this works better, let me know and I will try to get it to stay like this. Yeah, I'm not saying anything. You're not missing anything. All right, that's almost. Be warned, this is messy. Normally when I do this, I run out of paint, and this time I have so much leftover paint, it's silly. Now, from here, you can see, as it dries, the ink coming out. Like, over here, you can see how that ink is starting to come out. You could also, this is damp, so you could also, I haven't done this before, so I don't know if it will work. Try to pull up some of that paint so that more of that brown comes through. I haven't tried this before, so I don't know how this will work. Oh, I like how that, ooh, I think that's good. And the paper already feels softer than it did when I started this whole process. So I like that too. I do believe that, see this brown, that kind of reddish brown is the color that this is going to be. It's probably going to be a bit darker than that when it dries, but it's going to have, and the ink underneath is going to give it a super deep patina. So once this dries, I will come back and I will show you what it looks like, and from there I will show you how to turn this into a journal cover. So this isn't the end of this video, but it needs to dry, and I will leave this to air dry overnight. All right, this is what the leather looks like, faux leather looks like when it's fully dry. You can see, if you look, the ink really shows through quite well on all the wrinkles, and it didn't flatten out as much as it often does for me, and I think that might be because I did the coffee dyeing first. So I did press it, which I don't normally do, so it's still quite wrinkly, but it is flat wrinkly, which I hope that makes sense. And I had so much paint left over that I did the piece of paper that was still a bit damp. So I've got funny marks in it from partly this one. It looks like it might be here, like this funny red line. I think that's from my paint. But I also have streaks like this that I know are from the ink, but it still looks like you get lots of really nice lines here. And I know that I'm trying to do a series on options for how to craft when you don't have a lot of funds. So when I first started doing faux leather, everyone that I saw was using Distress ink to create the coloration on the paper, and I didn't have any at that point in time, which is why I used paint, because having gone to art school and done a lot of painting in the past, paint is something I had, and that's why I did it like this. And I found that I actually liked the final look of it a lot more with the paint on top of it than I did with just Distress inks, because it looks more like cowhide to me when it's done. But if you don't have either ink or paint, try the coffee and see if you can get that to work. It's not going to go as dark. It would be more like this. This is the Amazon packaging, where you get a bit of look to it. Some wrinkly lines. It doesn't look as much like leather, but it still has some interest to it. And in this week's Friday freebies, I've scanned both this one and this one, and I will put freebies up with these, plus some that are actual leather, just so that you can see those. The other option for ink is Dollarama has in the past, let me see, Dollarama has sold, they had little stamp sets. I don't know if they still do, but with little tiny ink pads like this. And these would work. Like, these would definitely work. That color would be really good to use. It's kind of a reddish brown, but I don't know that Dollarama still has them. And last time I was at Dollar Tree, they sold, excuse my arm and any noise, they sold these ink pads, and I believe they're archival. I'm not sure, there's no markings on them. The brand of them is Forever in Time. They had black, blue, green, and maybe red. But again, with Dollar Tree, you never know what you're going to get. So, but it is an option. The other option is check thrift stores. Sometimes you might find them. I've got, I think 5 of my Distress inks came from a thrift store, shockingly enough. I also got this pad of inks at a thrift store, and that's got a number of different options, and they just pull out like this, and you could like, that's a nice brown. I haven't tried them, I don't know what they would work like, but that is an option as well if you could find them at the thrift store. But like I said, I will put the scan of the paper that I did. It will be this one. It looks really good scanned. I've tried to scan this one, and it comes out looking extremely red, which it isn't in real life. It's quite a brownish. It does have a red undertone, but it's quite brownish, and you don't see any of the nice, like, blackish markings. But I hope that gives you an idea of what you can do. And then, like I said, I think on Wednesday, I'll show you how to turn this into a cover. And until next time, have a wonderful crafty evening. Bye.